Hello everybody, we are talking about Brandon Banks today and the fact that he was released from the Toronto Argonauts. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. I'd love to have you here along the way as we talk about CFL content. Now, let's get into the storyline that happened yesterday, I believe it was, maybe the day before last, but the Toronto Argonauts released Brandon Banks, veteran receiver, and this one was reported possibly be to do for the bonus that he was going to get. He was going to get something like $30,000 or $35,000 in an offseason roster bonus if he was on the team by February 15th, and of course that is not going to be the case, and you really start to wonder whether or not this makes sense for Toronto. I think that in a sense it does, and there's going to be a few reasons that I talk about that, but of course we will talk about maybe the other side of it as to why it doesn't make sense. So for me, I'm going to say that this makes sense because you have seen him the past 2 years and he clearly has not been himself. 2021, he played 10 games and had 474 yards, and then finished the year with just 2 touchdowns and 10 games played. You know, not terrible numbers, but for a guy that won M.O.P in 2019, you're probably hoping for more and for something better. That was his last season in Hamilton, unfortunately, and of course they weren't able to win the Grey Cup over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers before he ended up signing a 2-year deal with the Toronto Argonauts. And then this past season, he had 16 games played, 37 receptions for 522 yards and 4 touchdowns. My knowledge looking at this, and why I've said before I'm not a football expert, I look at his age. He is 35 years old? Yeah, he's 35 and has had to battle some injuries, and really the past 2 years has not looked like himself. For Toronto, I just don't think it really makes sense. Banks is a guy that, nothing wrong with this, but he provides some flair, but I do think that maybe in a locker room like Toronto's, they're okay maybe without him. Not to say that they, have an issue with him or anything like that, but he's a guy that, I think sometimes the drama follows a little bit, as well as he has had those injuries. With his age on top of that and whatever money he's making, they probably just feel like we're ready to go. We can go with other guys, Ambles, Tavares Daniels, and then, of course, Curly Gittens Jr. would be another guy. They are probably looking at this and thinking, we've already got a lot of the guys we need. We can go kick the can toward free agency and then decide if we want to go get some more weapons out there. And I think that's kind of, the process they had. On the other side, you're looking at a guy that 2017 had his first 1,000-yard season in his career. If I'm not mistaken, yes, it was. He had 8 touchdowns that season and 18 games played. 2018, 1,400 yards, 1,423 to be exact, on 94 receptions, 11 scores right there. And then 2019, that M.O.P season that was so incredible, 16 games played, 112 receptions, 1,550 receiving yards, and 13 majors right there receiving. That is incredible. And of course, he's a guy that plays special teams too. And you're looking and saying, that wasn't that long ago. 2019 was not too far ago, but then we had the whole 2020 season canceled. We had the kind of injured season form in 2021 that people said, maybe it was just a bad year working off rust. And then this past year where for whatever reason, even in 16 games played, he was not able to put up big numbers in the double blue. And I look at this also as well. He had 37 receptions on 75 targets. That's about 50%. Nothing crazy impressive there looking at that. And yeah, he had 112 receptions on 158 targets his M.O.P season. But for a guy that you target 75 times to get just the 500 yards, and if I remember right, one of those was a really long play, 53 yards, I think is as long on the season. You look at that right there, 10% of his yards are off one catch. It happens, for a guy that has big plays, that's okay. But you're looking at guys that make big plays a little bit more often. And while Banks has done that in his career, looking at him right now, I think it's probably safe to say that if you are looking to win or repeat as Grey Cup champions, you don't necessarily have to use Brandon Banks as one of your guys. Not to say that he couldn't recover into the 2019 form, but it'd be kind of surprising if he was going to be 35, coming off injuries, hasn't really played like himself. past 2 seasons, I would probably say I'd be more shocked than expecting it to happen, I guess you could say. So yeah, that's just my take on it. I think that it didn't completely blow me away, but of course it was unfortunate for Banks, as he's a guy that really is passionate about the game. But we will see where his future lies. Will he retire? I don't know. Will he go somewhere else? Possibly. I mean, it's one of those things where maybe he decides he wants to go back to Hamilton. Who knows? We don't know. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this was a good idea for the Argos to release Banks? And then do you think part of that was tied into that bonus that they ended up releasing him, before February 15th? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night.